now it is.
All right.
3, 2, 1. Yo, what's up, guys? Bonsi-chan here, back at you another video. And today we're joined by the awkward Asian over here in the right corner.
You know it.
Mr. Brandon, aka LoneAzn. And today we are just going to be talking about our time in Seattle for Seattle Regionals, aka the Garboder format. We're going to talk about the venue, the event itself, what we played against, and what cards we think the most impactful cards of Guardians Rising and are going to be in the format for a long time. So, I guess we'll start this off with you, Brandon. What do you think of the venue and the event itself?
As an event, I feel like it was run pretty bad due to the fact that we started almost an hour and a half late.
No, we didn't start till after 11, I thought.
Yeah, about an hour and a half to 2 hours late.
Yeah,
it was Portland was better due to the fact that we could pre-register online and literally cut the line down.
Oh, here, just to clarify, we could pre-register, we just couldn't pay.
Okay, as in pre-register, usually it means to pay.
Yeah,
as well.
I didn't see the point of us pre-registering because they still took down our player IDs and everything else.
Venue-wise, I think it was great. The Seattle Convention Center is really big. It's literally like walking into a gigantic mall. And I'm originally from Minnesota anyway, so I kind of understand the really big mall aspect. The convention center, the room was really big. It was enough to fit how many people we had. We had both VGC and the trading card game on top of spectators to be able to fit in there. The room did not get hot. The AC was on. I was actually pretty surprised.
It didn't even feel crowded either.
Yeah. That was the good thing. There was like more than enough tables for like anyone, even if you wanted just to play like side events or check out some of the vendors. I mean, the vendors is kind of normal with kind of like a convention standpoint. They're kind of crowded at the early parts and then slowly diminish. But I mean, like as a whole, it was enjoyable just because it was just a new format that we got to play in. It was kind of sad to see everyone running almost the same deck because of the fact that, Garboder is literally the single strongest card in this format currently, for standard especially, because of the fact that everyone's so item reliant. A lot of people run VS Seekers, a lot of people run Trainer's Mail. If you're playing a water deck, Dive Ball. Most people run Ultra Balls.
I mean, how long has the standard been, 4 Ultra Balls, 4 VS Seekers, 4 Trainer's Mails?
Exactly.
And then, we had things like, if you're playing Evolution deck, you're playing Rare Candies and Level Balls. If you're playing something like, if you're playing a Mega deck, especially you're running 4 Spirit Links, it's really easy to get those item cards racking up real quick. Yeah.
If you knew you were playing against a Garboder deck, you had to be smart with all your item usage.
Yeah, either you had to be really smart and not play them carelessly, or you just had to outpace them.
Yeah, you had to set up. If you were going to set up and do it fast with items, you had to knock out the Garboders almost immediately.
The only deck that I really saw doing that and doing it consistently was Mega Ray.
Mm-hmm.
Just because they can first turn Mega Evolve, and by on their second turn they're ready to, actually on the first turn they can even attack, because they can double colorless and then use a Mega Turbo to pull a basic energy out of their discard and start swinging that way.
Yep.
But Mega Ray, I didn't see a whole lot of it. I saw a few players, but it wasn't like rampant like as people were just expecting it to be. I mean, I'm looking at the top 32 right now, which I'll throw up on the screen for you guys.
Oh, I need to look at that real quick. It's on Charizard Lounge, right?
Yeah, Charizard Lounge has the top 32. Top 32, I only see one Mega Ray player. The rest of it is mostly a mixture of Drampa Garbodor or Espeon Garbodor, and a little bit of Decidueye Plume, a little bit, not as much as you think there would be. There's one person who played Decidueye Plume with Ninetales though.
Yes, we talked to him outside.
We did.
Yes, that was the one guy outside.
I thought he was scrubbing out that day.
He was playing in there with a Decidueye Ninetales deck, and I think he scrubbed out. But I know he was one of the few that played Decidueye with Ninetales.
Yeah. But overall, though, as far as Garbodor goes, either you had to play around it or you just had to outpace it, in which the only thing that really could outpace it was Mega Ray. I was actually managing to outpace it with my deck, but unfortunately, the one Garbodor deck I went against, he had two cards in there that kind of just stopped me dead in my tracks, which were Sudowoodo and Garbotux and Garbodor, and both those just prevent me from setting up. So that Garbodor player was really well prepared for Mega Ray, because I was playing Mega Gardevoir, and the counters to Mega Gardevoir and Mega Ray are kind of the same.
Yeah.
But then, but as far as the event goes, I really hated the fact that we started really late. It just made the day feel a lot longer. I mean, we both dropped out after round 7, and that was like at 9:30 at night.
Unfortunately.
And we got there at 7:30, and we thought we were late.
Do you mind shooting me that link? Because I can't.
Yeah,
for some reason, I can't find it.
I got you.
See how far down it is. Toronto. Yeah, I can only see up in the Portland, Toronto.
I got you.
All right. Awesome. Yeah. It was pretty bad. We didn't get done till 9 for us. It was pretty bad.
Which was pretty horrible.
Let's see.
See if I can make you bigger. There we go. People can see your lovely face. There we go. But yeah, the event that we started late. Time between rounds felt pretty inconsistent as well.
Yep.
The venue was awesome. Luckily, we didn't have the same problems that Virginia had with not being able to even bring in water.
Or outside food.
Yeah, and there was no bag checks or anything, which was really nice. But overall, it was a good event overall. I mean, except for the fact that we started late, made the event feel a lot longer than it had to be. Going forward, though, let's talk about what we played. And so, Brandon, why don't you start off with what deck you were running and what you went against, how you did, what you would have changed.
Let me actually grab my phone real quick, because it tells me all the stuff that I played against. I played Greninja, the normal Greninja break. The only thing that was pretty much different was the fact that I choice banned for bursting balloons. Unfortunately, I teched out a card that I should have kept in as a couple of my techs. I put Hex Maniac in originally because playtesting with a couple friends in our local tournaments that we do, they suggested it. I felt pretty confident in it. Confident because of the fact that usually a first turn Hex on quite a few players can actually do a lot of harm, especially for like Decidueye or decks that run Shaman, because they cannot play Shaman and set up as quickly as they want. So the first round I played against a Vespiquen Lycanroc deck. That was pretty interesting. His name was Byron. He actually went to quite a bit of regionals, and he already secured his spot for Worlds. So he decided to kind of mess around, play with this deck because he thought it was fun. Every move I made, everything I tried to do to go around Vespiquen, he just had an answer to everything. He had a Lysander in hand. The Lycan Rock, the Midnight Lycan Rock, the ability is so good to pull out Pokemon that you want to hit. It's a Lysander with a body. That's all it really was. So he basically took both games on me, just super easy. I got a couple prizes on him, but it was really close because one game he almost decked out, but he knew he had a DCE left. That's all he needed to win. So if I would have kept the Enhanced Hammer, I would have been able to deny quite a bit. But he top decked the Shaman and used the Shaman and pulled the DCE as his last card. Next two rounds weren't too crazy. I played against a Volcanion next. That was round 2. I should have won that game if we would have been able to play out the last round. He only took the first game on me due to the fact that he set up. He was playing Turtonator with Volcanion normal. But the interesting part about it was the fact that he was playing Brooklet Hill. Because Brooklet Hill, you can pull out those EXs, the Volcanion EXs, and steam up. It took me a while to try to set up my Greninjas the first game, but the second game I sweeped him. He scooped. Third game, if we would have played out long enough, I would have took that game on him, so I wouldn't have had those 2 losses early on. Third deck I played against was a Sylveon. That was kind of sad on my part because of the fact that he was playing hard stall. My Sylveon, I play kind of an aggro stall, so it's kind of like a mid-range deck. I can hit, but I can also stall at the same time. But he just stalled me out. He took out a lot of my Frogadiers or even my Froakies when I had them out, so I couldn't set up at all. I hexed him 2 turns in a row on a couple games, and that helped me out quite a bit just to get set up, but I just couldn't keep up. I played against a Water Box. I should have took both games on him, but we played out a couple of those games, the first 2 games, pretty long. I had to Sycamore quite a bit of times just to be able to keep up with him and try to beat him because he was running the Aqua Patch, the Max Elixirs, and he would hit them just barely, so he was set up pretty quickly. The Decidueye Lock Rainbow, that was interesting because his deck wasn't really optimized. It was kind of clunky. I definitely took games on him. I think that was my first win. And then I played a Mega Ray after that. Mega Ray is pretty hard to play against with Greninja if you can't top deck. I braked really hard all the games that I played against him. And then the last one I don't really count as playing because the gentleman I played against, he had a dark budget deck. So it was a little interesting to play against because he had Darkrai, he had Yveltal in there, the baby Yveltal, and then he had a Sharpedo and a Tauros in there. I mean, I took both games on him. That was probably, well, that should have been my second win, but we ended up basically tying it because we couldn't finish the last game. But those were all the decks I played against. Fortunately, I didn't play against any of the Garbodor decks, but that was because I got pushed so far down the ladder after those 2 games that I just could not recover. Had one on paper, it said I had 1 win, 3 ties, and 3 losses. So, I mean, it wasn't too good for me, especially because the text that I wanted to keep, I should have, but I ended up opting out for the Hex Maniac, so that didn't end up too well. But other than that, I had a good experience. Greninja it's viable, but it's not enough to handle some of the decks that can speed up, or ones that have less of a setup time because of the fact that you have to be wary of your prizes. And the choice bands were pretty situational. You don't want to drop those passively. You want to drop them when you're going to attack and when there's going to be an EX. But fortunately enough, I had kept my games close, so I'm not too salty about it. But other than that, all my matches were pretty close. Got pretty tired due to the fact that we were there for like over 12 hours. So yeah, coffee, 2 Red Bulls, and a 5-hour energy. Not good for the system.
Yep. So leading up to that, I was playing Mega Gardevoir, which is a deck that a lot of people had high hopes for doing well in this format, with things like Field Blower making it inherently better.
Yep.
In that, as far as my performance went, my list was pretty standard Mega Gardevoir list. 3/3 line of Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir, 2 Hoopa, 4 Shaman, 2 Dragonite. The only difference really from my list versus other people's list was that I was running, I only ran 1 Tapu Lele because I couldn't find room for the second one. I was playing 1 Sudowoodo as a tech against Mega Ray, which was a pretty bad matchup for me. Just because they can swing really hard, whereas I can't swing as hard as they can. And then I also played 1 of the Energy Oricorio, just so I always made sure I could hit my energy, so I wouldn't miss energy attachment. So that way I could, if let's say I had the Mega Turbo in hand, but not the energy in hand, I could Oricorio for it. Basically, let me Ultra Ball for an energy. Overall, I was not disappointed in my list at all. If I could have fit anything else into my deck, though, I definitely would have found room for either a second Tapu Lele for consistency, or a second Field Blower to deal with things like Choice Band and Float Stones and pesky stadiums.
Yeah.
First round, I went against a Garb deck, which had Sudowoodo and Garbotoxin Garb in it, so it really stopped me dead in my tracks, because as soon as he got one of those up, it prevented me from setting up. In order for me to win the game, I would have to go for the Sudowoodo or the Garbotoxin Garbodor and take it out so that I could start setting back up again. But every once in a while, he had both on the field, and it's like it took me 2 turns to take down both of those Pokemon so I could start swinging at the Garb. Meanwhile, Garbodor is just swinging and swinging and swinging at me for 100 damage a turn, 200 damage a turn. I could not outpace it because he would stop me dead in my tracks. I don't see his name on the top 32, so I don't think he made top 32. He might have made top 64, but I don't think he made top 32. I don't see his name up here. His name is Ruben, and I do not see a Ruben on here.
Yeah.
Round 2, I went against some guy who had his own original deck. It was a deck using Solgaleo and Scizor.
Oh, that was a pretty good one.
So I already had the disadvantage of the weakness, as well as the disadvantage in the fact that he has resistance to me. Basically what his deck was that he would use Ultra Road in order to use Scizor's second attack, which does more damage if it became the active Pokemon. That let him one-shot all my Mega Gardevoirs. He also had some really interesting tech options. He had Baby Rayquaza to accelerate energy from his discard pile. He had Baby Drampa to move energy around. He also played his only supporters. He played only 2 VS Seekers, and he played, I think he said three copies of Hala, 3 copies of N, and 3 copies of Sycamore, and that was all his draw power. But it worked out pretty well from him. I don't know how well he did after the tournament. I don't see his name on here. His name was Anthony, and I did not see his name on the list. I honestly don't think he did that well, just because his deck was just a little too slow. It would probably be better at a regional after Seattle because the meta then would slow down. But a lot of the day 1 meta, there's still a lot of speed decks around that Garbodor was able to deal with very consistently. Round 3, I ended up winning because my opponent. I was playing against a budget. Either it was a budget deck or he was a new player because he He was playing Lurantis Delphox, which I saw the idea, but the cards that he was playing were just not, I don't think were optimal. He was playing 4 copies of N, but no VS Seekers. He was playing Great Ball versus Ultra Ball. He managed to get 1 win off of me because I had 2 Mega Gardevoirs prized, which is my only attacker in the deck. And it was actually my last 2. It was actually one of my last 2 prizes. So he managed to take 1 game off of me, and then I got the 2nd game off of him, and then the 3rd game we ended up going to time. Just because Lurantis is really big and bulky and kind of hard for me to take down in 1 shot, so I had to take 2 or 3 shots because he was playing things like Pokemon Center Lady to heal it up. So you heal it up, then use Solar Blade to heal more. So oftentimes I had to take 2 or 3 shots on him to take out Lurantis. So I went to time in that round. But since he was late to the table, the tie goes to me in that at regionals. That's the rule. If you and your opponent tie and your opponent was late, the win goes to you. So I got to win that way. The following round, I tied against a Gyarados. Gyarados, I was really surprised to see it as much Gyarados as we did see there. None of them made day 2, but I was surprised to see Gyarados, period, because of how bad of a matchup it has against Decidueye. Just because if they secret base, the magic cards are basically free prizes to take. But me and him ended up going to time on the last game, simply because we were both trying to dig for that last card, and we had used all of our supporters, and we were both just digging hard for that one last card we needed to win. I needed a Lysander, he needed a DCE. So we ended up tying, but then we signed our slip, and then we played it out, and I would have ended up winning. So if I had played just a little bit faster in the 2nd game, I probably could have got that win off of that. Following round, I went up against a Trevenant Garb deck. Not Trevenant Garb, just Trevenant, period. Trevenant from Guardians Rising, which does 30 damage for each trainer card in your opponent's hand. His deck was really interesting. He would just play Trev and Tapu Lele and DCEs, and he had some really interesting tech cards in there. He was playing a couple copies of Lima for the late game instead of N. That way he could make you have more cards in your hand, therefore increasing the chances of you having more trainers. I ended up taking the win on him just because I would actually dump all my trainer cards. Since I knew he wasn't playing Garbodor, I would just dump all my trainer cards out of my hand and just hold Pokemon energy, making it really hard for him to attack and get consistent damage off. I would oftentimes just play item cards just for the sake of playing an item card. Like I would Rescue Stretcher for a card I didn't need, just to get rid of 1 item card. I would Ultra Ball away items that I didn't need just to get them out of my hand, and I ended up being able to take the win that way off of him. And then the following round, I went up against a Mega Ray. I went against a Mega Ray player. I won 2, she won 1. How I won that matchup was the first game that I won. I got Sudowoodo out turn 1, which limits our opponent's bench down to 4, stopping Mega Ray from hitting for massive damage, as well as stopping her from fully setting up. And I was taking advantage of her Sky Field. I was just discarding my own Sky Fields, because as long as there's one on the field, I'm good. The Sudowoodo kind of stopped her dead in her tracks, and I just had to take out 2 shots on the Mega Ray, and then I went up winning that way. Well, she still had to take 2 shots as well, but it's a lot harder for a Mega Ray player to set up unless they have their 4 Shamans, because they need to draw a Spirit Link, a double colorless, a Race Basic Energy, and the Mega to get that Mega Ray set up, where I actually need to draw a Gardevoir, Mega Gardevoir, and 2 Energy, and a Spirit Link. And the reason why it's easier for me is that I just need 2 basic energy, while they need a special energy and a basic energy, so it's a lot harder for them to hit that consistently without having a whole lot of draw. The round that she won, I just couldn't get she set up faster than I did. I couldn't get the Sudowoodo out in time. And then the final round, I won by I Hex Maniac her 3 turns in a row. I played both my Hexes, and I VS Secret for one of them back, and I just stopped her dead in her tracks so she couldn't set up. Couldn't Shaman, couldn't Hoopa, couldn't Dragonite. Ended up taking the win there. Following round, I went 2-1 against a Vespiquen deck. Vespiquen's still very strong, still very relevant, guys. It's a deck that's very adaptable to the format because it plays 20 plus Pokemon. so it can always find tech options inside its Pokemon lineup. His list is pretty standard, nothing unusual though. He had Zoroark in there though for things like Mega Ray, Volcanion. Was not playing Evolutions though, which I thought was kind of strange, but he was doing pretty well. I think he ended up making top 64 though. But that was what I went against. If I could change anything about my deck, is I would have found room for the second Tapu Lele or a second Field Blower. That's what I would have chose. I would have went for a second Field Blower or a second Tapu Lele. The Field Blower just to get rid of more choice bands and more stadiums. Against the Gyarados matchup, that really helped to slow him down. And the Mega Ray matchup would have really helped to get rid of those Spirit Links when she couldn't evolve. In the Vespiquen matchup, it would have helped get rid of the Forest of Giant Plants as well as their choice bands. I think 2 Field Blowers now is a really good standard to run in a deck, just because of how effective it is. And then also, I think a second Tapu Lele would have been a big help to grab supporters that I really needed. Even though I could easily pull them back with Dragonite and Rescue Stretcher, I feel like having a second one would just been a huge help. Moving on, so that's both what we played. Real quick, Brandon, what are the 3 cards you think are here to stay from this format and will be continuously played in every deck?
We already know Garbodor.
I think Garbodor will be prevalent for a very long time, at least until rotation. Once rotation happens, we lose Trainer's Mails, we lose VS Seekers.
There's a lot of stuff we lose that people are going to have to learn to change up in their decks.
Yeah.
Garbodor is a big one because of the fact that you can usually use them in almost any deck, because all it does is require 1 energy to attack, but you can run a Rainbow Energy if you want to be able to run that in any deck. Field Blower is definitely a big one, and Choice Band, those 2 for sure, because you can win a Stadium War without needing extra stadiums.
Yeah, you're able to cut down your stadium count and just play an extra Field Blower.
Yeah, because I play two Parallel Cities in my Sylveon deck, and I can still win the Stadium War most of the time because of the fact that people will carelessly drop their Stadium, drop a Choice Band, if they ran EXP Share anymore, or Focus Sash, Weakness Policy, Bent Spoon. I can knock those out as well with Field Blower.
Yep, I definitely agree with you with those 3 cards. Garbodor is going to be relevant, I would say, at least until rotation, just because we lose a lot of item cards that have been staple in the format. Once those cards leave, though, leave the rotation, leave the standard format, it's gonna definitely push into a slower meta. We're gonna be seeing a lot more stage 2s, a lot more stage 1s, a lot more of, hard evolving.
Yep.
I definitely think Field Blower is here to stay. It definitely it counters choice bands, it counters stadiums. It also makes things like Fighting Fury Belt, Bursting Balloon, EXP Share a lot worse because they're passive tool cards, whereas so like you can't just no longer just set a tool card and forget it. You have to use aggressive tool cards or tool cards that give you immediate value when you play them. Things like Choice Band give you immediate value when you play them because when you attack, you instantly get that extra 3rd damage. Cards like Fighting Fury Belt are now Fighting Fury Belt's kind of a gray area because it does give you 10 extra damage, but you're really playing it for the 40 extra health.
Yeah.
And so Field Blower Field Blower makes Fighting Fury Belt a liability because if you have 40 HP left on opposed with Fighting Fury Belt and you retreat it, well, I'm just gonna Field Blower off your Fighting Fury Belt for the knockout. It leads to situations like that, as well as cards like Experience Share. It's a set and forget tool card. You can't play set and forget tool cards anymore. Bursting Balloon, while not being as relevant as it once was, becomes a lot worse now because of Field Blower. Because now your opponent just has to no longer has to just sit there and wait or Lysander something out.
Yeah, I was gonna say they don't have to waste a Lysander.
Yeah, they can just Field Blower it off along with something else. Passive stadiums become a lot worse. Things like what's that card I'm thinking of? Things like Rough Seas become a lot worse, even though it's not really a passive tool card. You can't just set it and forget it. You have to play it, then use it to get the value. Things like Aether Paradise Conservation, even though they haven't seen a whole lot of play, are not as good now, as proven by Field Blower. Things like Perilous City are not as good anymore unless you're using it to immediately discard something off your bench or your opponent's bench.
Yep.
Things like Scorched Earth become a lot worse now because you're only guaranteed that first turn draw, that first use out of it, until a Field Blower comes out. Same thing with things like Silent Lab are a lot easier to deal with now. Overall, stadiums just got a whole lot weaker. Even I don't ever see a point to where stadiums become useless and no one ever plays stadiums again. I think it's just the more what's the word I'm looking for? The more proactive stadiums become better, and the more reactive stadiums become less good. So when I say proactive, I mean things like, your Rough Seas, when you play it and use it, your things like Brooklet Hill become a little bit better just because your cards, the stadiums that you can guarantee get something off the turn you play it.
Yeah.
And not stadiums that you kind of just set and forget. But yeah. Also, I think Choice Band is going to make a huge splash in the expanded format, because even though Expand is a different format, it is a heavy EX format. Also, Field Blower makes the Keldeo Floatstone combo not as appealing anymore.
Yeah.
It also makes this doesn't really hurt Toad, though. Unfortunately, it doesn't really hurt Toad, which is still a very dominant deck, because Toad doesn't just lock you out of items to begin with. But we have always had Zerosic to deal with that in Expanded. It's just kind of a waste of a supporter.
Yeah.
Also, Yveltal Maxi just got a little bit worse because Fighting Fury Belt is not as good now. But I think all three cards, Garbodor, Field Blower, and Choice Band, will make their way down to Expanded very quickly. Just because they, I think Garbodor forces both formats to change the way they build decks drastically.
Yes.
If you make it,
yeah.
If you make a good Garbodor deck in Expanded, people are gonna have to change their decks really quick. But overall, though, I definitely like the set as a whole. There's some cards that I felt like were kind of lackluster. Everyone thought Aqua Patch was gonna be like the most broken thing ever, and it didn't really. Water itself did not see a whole lot of representation at CL Regionals, especially in the top 32. I mean, you had Israel Sosa, who came in fourth with a Lapras, Manaphy, Glaceon, Articuno deck, basically a water box deck. And then you also had one person playing Ninetales with Vileplume and Decidueye, and that was it. Oh wait, one more low and Ninetales person. So we had 3 water decks in the top 32. So obviously Aqua Patch did not live up to the hype. I think a big reason that is that water Pokemon don't really benefit from Aqua Patch as much as Dark Pokemon benefit from Dark Patch. Also, I do not think that, because of Garbodor, I think that Aqua Patch becomes a lot worse now. Just because that's 4 more items that you have to play.
Yeah.
In a deck that has bulky Pokemon, but hitting, the magic number that all the Garbodor players hope to hit is 13, because 13 gives them 260 damage, which is more than enough to knock out anything. So, I don't think Aqua Patch lived up to the hype that it was trying to give itself. But overall, it was a good event. The decks, I don't know what deck I would have played if I didn't play Mega Gardevoir. I could have played, I don't know. It was kind of a comfort pick because I didn't have a whole lot of time to test new Guardians Rising stuff for myself. I did a lot of playing, as you guys could see on the channel, but nothing really stuck out to me as a deck that I thought was good enough for regionals, or that I could pilot efficiently enough.
Yeah.
But do you have anything to add, Brandon?
Not really. I mean, it kind of sucks that there was that one prevalent deck that just destroyed everything and just basically made everyone that chose a deck regret choosing what they played. Like, for instance, with me, I probably would have played my Sylveon deck, to be honest, just because of the fact that everyone else's decks were kind of they were so focused on stall that they couldn't keep up with a lot of what they were doing. Because, I mean, most of them, they would play GX, get maybe, like if they played against a Solgaleo, pick up the ones that were rare candy evolved. That way they can't evolve again unless they have a rare candy. Lysander stalling didn't really work too well because a lot of the Pokemon that people play only have like one retreat cost, if that.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it definitely is going to change the game because we were the first to have Guardians Rising be legal. So that's going to be a little, going to be kind of like a wake-up call for future events that'll happen because Guardians Rising had such strong cards that elevated the game, even though it slowed down because of the fact that, you know, everyone plays item cards. They try to accelerate their deck as much as possible and optimize it. But then when you have a Garbodor right there, and they know you are playing a lot of items, even first turn if they wanted to, they could probably do a Trubbish, Wally, Garbodor, then straight into Trashalanch already, and that does a lot of damage if you play a lot of items. So,
yep. I think that's enough on Garbodor. I think everyone's tired of hearing about Garbodor.
Yeah, I am too. Water Box is dead, pretty much.
I don't think Water Box is dead.
It's not dead in a sense. It's not as...
Glaceon is what gives Water hope because it stops Garbodor dead in his tracks.
Yep.
It's going to force Garbodor players to have to play Ranger or do cute things with Escape Rope and Lysander.
Yep.
But, I mean... What, Crystal Ray does, 70 damage?
Yeah, 70 damage.
It's a 2-shot on every Garbodor.
Yep.
So Glaceon as a deck itself, as its own deck, probably has some hope if Garbodor remains the dominant deck that everyone thinks it's going to be. Yeah. Until players learn to adjust to Garbodor and learn to play around it, you know, by lowering their item counts and upping their supporter count.
Yeah.
That's just going to be the way it is. The good players will adapt. The bad players will will just be free wins.
Yep.
Garbodor has already, at even our own local level, we knew Garbodor was going to be strong. We had a couple of our friends who were playing Garbodor, and they were kind of just rolling face on everybody.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Even like Decidueye has a hard time dealing with Garbodor. And
yeah.
Decidueye doesn't even play that many items. But that's been it, guys. That was our trip to Seattle. Unfortunately, neither one of us came home with a top 64 win. We are hoping to go to another regional sometime soon. We're not sure which one, but we will let you guys know whenever we are going to another regionals. For sure, though, Portland, Seattle next year will definitely be for sure. And Brandon is holding up the Como-O mat. That is our new spirit animal, Como-O. The Forgotten GX.
Hopefully, we'll have a deck video up because of Bonzi-chun over there.
Oh, God.
It's my troll deck that I always tell people to make, and I will buy them cards.
Dude, Como-O's not even that expensive to build.
Exactly. That's the point. It's a budget deck.
I'll probably do that. We'll do that as a real life deck profile. We'll do that. Well, I won't do that online. We'll do that as real life.
Oh Lord.
That'd be more fun.
Other than that, be on the lookout. I'll have a teaser for the vlog up soon. Probably a couple days from now. And then Friday, hopefully I'll drop the actual vlog videos. I spent most of the time vlogging, if not all the time vlogging. The only thing that sucked was inside the event, I didn't vlog as much. due to the fact that it's super loud.
Yeah, and you never know how much time you have to go outside the vlog or anything, or step away, because there's like you have to rely on somebody calling you, and we were having problems with our phones being able to call other people that were sitting right next to us. As we found out the hard way when Austin asked you to pick up his energy drink off the table.
Yeah, I didn't even get the call. My phone. I was listening to music. My headphones were in. There was no register at all. But,
yeah, placing calls inside the venue was very difficult. You had cell service, it just didn't go through. It was really weird. But till next time, guys, it's been Bonzi Chun and LoneAzn. Till next time, guys, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and peace out.
Winky face.
That was now. Because we are getting pretty low on cards here. We're keeping pace above our opponent here. We just needed to hit that aqua pad, that, and that.